heavyweight champion. Welcome, Danny Batten.
Number one. You win.
Hey guys, I'm Si. Welcome to A.C.E Podcast Nation, the home of the Danny Batten Fight Show. This is episode number 68. Tonight we will be talking to our special guest, stroke co-host, because Danny is only here for a short period this week, and we're going to talk Cage Warriors from the last 3 days, as well as UFC from last night, and a couple of other little bits. So it's an action-packed show. As ever, you can get this show and all the other shows we do on A.C.E Podcast Nation, youtube.com/A.C.E Podcast Nation. If you want the video versions, and of course the audio versions are available at all the regular podcast platforms around the internet. But with no further ado, let's get into it. Of course, joining me as ever, even if it's just for a short stint, it is former Cage Warriors champion, UK MMA legend. It is famous Danny Batten.
You're right, Si.
All right, buddy.
Yeah.
Famous Danny Batten. So yeah, you got an extremely busy couple of weeks. So obviously you're back off to London tomorrow for to prepare to go out to the States with Modestas. Yeah. So you're going to join us for a half hour or so, talk about Cage Warriors. And then you're going to shoot off with me and Richard, who are our special guest. Delighted to welcome back a professional MMA fighter in his own right. And of course, some would say the better looking Mearns brother. It is Mr. Richard Mearns. How goes it, Richard? Welcome back, my friend.
Thanks for having me on.
No worries, mate. Good to have you back. So I think we've got to start with Cage Warriors. Danny, it was an incredible 3 days of fights. Ian Dean deserves a knighthood because for all these Trilogy shows, but even going back before that, like Cage Warriors over the last couple of years have really stepped it up, and the matchmaking I think is a massive part of that because they just seem to find the right combinations of fighters. 9 times out of 10 the combo is good. A little bit disappointed that there was certain fighters not on the card this Trilogy, but there was various reasons for that. Like Oban was looking forward to having his welterweight return, and I was looking forward to that, but his opponent had an illness and they couldn't find a replacement. No Jake Hadley, although he had plenty to say over the weekend, which is always good, but no Luke Shanks, of course, as well. So there was a few names missing, but there was plenty to talk about. And of course, we culminated with your fighter in the main event, Danny, of the last day, fighting for the title you used to hold. Before I get your opinion on that, I've been something I don't normally do a great deal is I've been looking on Twitter and Instagram today a lot, and the French MMA fans were not happy. They felt that they were Morgan Charrier was robbed and this, that and the other. But for me, if you look at the way the scorecard, the scoring works, and it's clear, like he didn't do enough. And even though he did have Jordan up against the cage a lot, he didn't do anything with it. He was he was almost like he was taking a breather. I just felt he was quite gassed after a couple of rounds. And I just felt Jordan did more in the striking. So because Charrier didn't do anything when he had the clinch, it was tough. He lost. And I felt like the majority of sort of experts and journalists, and I haven't seen anyone say, Charrier should have won. It's only the French fans. And like Paddy said to us a couple of weeks ago, mate, he has got a big following. I don't know. Paddy said he was all hype beforehand. Like, I know you don't want to say that, but like I felt I was a bit disappointed with some aspects of where he went. Because I think he will be frustrated by his performance, but ultimately I thought Jordan did very, very well. I'm sure you're excited and happy, so tell me about it.
Well, yeah, it was highly stressful, but I suppose stressful from any coach's perspective. But yeah, it was a good performance. It was really fought a bit of everything. But I think he really summed it up. I think what went against Sharia was the fact that he was trying to smother the rounds out of Jordan. He knew he was shorter in stature and height, but stockier and possibly physically stronger. And he was just trying to steal the rounds by pressing him up against the fence. But you've got to be proactive with it. You know, he held him there and didn't really strike. And Jordan was sort of chipping away with his strikes from there. And Jordan was chasing the win all the time. And it was almost like Sharia was just trying to, like I say, smother the rounds and try to win it on that technicality. But the scoring somewhat changed in recent years, hasn't it? Where, you know, if you're going to be in a dominant position, you've got to do something with it. It just wasn't. I think the only reason it was allowed to be held for so long was the fact that Jordan was trying to be proactive in it and trying to get opportunity to get knees off, and he did get a couple of spotting knees off. But Sherry did waste a lot of time in that clinch, and I think that's ultimately what went against him. But he did have his moments. He had his moments where he could have capitalised on the ground better than he did. But I can only really give the thumbs up of respect for what Jordan did. You know, a couple of difficult situations, he worked well at scrambling back up to the feet, and he just looked like he wanted it more. And that's like the biggest factor, really. He was just gunning for the win from start to finish. He just wanted it. And Sherry looked like he's going through the motions a little bit.
Yeah, I felt with Sherry. So Jordan, I thought, particularly in the first 3 rounds, I thought his striking was really crisp and his movement and everything. He did sort of slow down a little bit towards the last couple of rounds, but I think part of that was because Cherrier, I think he knew he was behind, particularly in that last round, so he went a bit harder looking for the for that big shot. But he was Cherrier was very much, when he was striking on the feet, he was loading up those shots, and once Jordan took a couple of clean shots and didn't wobble, I felt like he got frustrated, so he changed tact a little bit and went for those clinch against the cage. But the rules are clear, mate. Like, if you're not looking for a submission or a finish and you're not striking, it's not enough to just hold your opponent against the cage. And I could hear you like shouting to Joe or saying to Jordan, his head's coming lower and lower, look for that knee. And he did. I think he tried it once or twice, but actually Jordan got off more strikes even in the clinch, which I just felt like, I thought it was a very mature performance for someone who's, Jordan's quite inexperienced. He's got 9 fights? 9 now. He's a young guy, and like, he just looks so relaxed, so crisp, and he never really looked, I didn't think, in danger of being finished or even looking trouble. I thought his defence when Cherrier did take him down to the ground, I thought Jordan's defence was excellent as well. He was very quick back up onto his feet. He was never stuck in on the ground on his back at any point. There was one point where I don't even think there was one point really. I didn't feel like Jordan was particularly troubled. Richard, what did you think of Jordan's performance and the fight overall?
I thought it was brilliant. I 100% give the fight to Jordan. So I don't know. I think these French people that are laying into Jordan, a lot of them are kind of like just kids that spend too much time on YouTube. Yeah. I don't know if they really know MMA, but when I watched it, man, I'd put Jordan at 4 rounds. There's only 1 round that I'd really give to Cherrier, which was the 4th, and I think that's the round where he picked him up in the air and dumped him a few times. There was more time on the ground, but Jordan, in my opinion, completely outworked Cherrier in the striking. I think Cherrier's striking was really good, and he was playing a very patient game. Do you know what I mean? Like, because he's got that one-punch knockout power, and I assume he was looking for it. So he's been really patient, waiting for that opportunity, but the opportunity wasn't ever going to be there because Jordan didn't give it to him. And Jordan just outworked him. That's pretty much it. I thought it's a close fight, but the work rate from Jordan is what won it. Yeah, like it wasn't like that Luke Shanks fight a couple of trilogies ago where he dominated all 5 rounds and just completely destroyed his opponent. But I also from start to finish from both men.
But I also thought Jordan won 4 rounds. So whilst it was a close fight, it wasn't close in the scoring for me, if that makes sense.
I'd give the 4th round to Cherrier, and then rounds 1 to 3 and 5 was Jordan. Just like he's mixing up the strikes, more kicks. He throwing the elbows, landed more punches, and the shots from Sharia were quite devastating. But
Jordan's got a chin on him.
Like Jordan, he wasn't really there to be hit. I think he just outworked him completely.
Yeah, but I think the punch count or the strike count was 250 strikes thrown by Jordan and 150 by Sharia, and I think the landing amount was something on 90 something for Jordan and 56 landed strikes for Sharia. So there's quite a large disparity of different regards to landed strikes and work rate. You know, even the shots that are missing, it's still work rate, and that's intent to win. And I think that ultimately that's where Jordan was edging it, basically.
Yeah, Sharia, he looked frustrated afterwards, but ultimately, if you watched, like I've watched the fight back as well, the second time, when I was less stressed and less hyped, and I still felt the same in terms of how it was scored and the performances of both fighters. Sharia looked really frustrated, but I think that's because he knew, like, he did have the opportunity to do more. Like, it wasn't like he wasn't able to get hold of Jordan. He had him in the clinch, and he caught him with a couple of shots, and I just felt like maybe he could have done a bit more, and I think he knew that, and that's why he was frustrated. Did he say much afterwards to Jordan, or like did he indicate that he was annoyed?
He was clearly not happy. Didn't really want to engage with Jordan afterwards. We shook the coach's hands. That was okay, but Luke obviously was very disappointed. But when I was in the medical room, Jordan tried to go over to him, and Sherry just didn't want to know. He didn't want to talk to Jordan. He was completely miffed off. And you know, these young lads, they're passionate and they're hungry and
competitors, mate.
So he believes he won. You can't knock Sherry for that. You know, he's a competitor, and you can't expect him to be happy in defeat. But let's be clear. You can't knock him for that. I can do what I want. I can say what I want. but like, no, I gotta be honest. Like, I spoke to Paddy a little bit last night after the fights, and like I said to him, like I felt like Sherry didn't turn up really. Like, I just felt that the positions he got himself into, he should have done more, knowing that Jordan was ahead on the striking. Like, and whether that's him thinking for himself. We talked so much about fight IQ, Dan, over the 60 odd shows, like, and how if the fight's not working or the game plan's not working, you've got to change it up. And he just kept going to that clinch, and it was almost like he was resting. And for me, alright, if you're going to keep going to that clinch, that's fine, because the process of getting there is working, but you have to do something with it. Look for elbows or try and take him to the floor, but you can't just stand there. I honestly believe that he thought he won it in terms of Sharia. I really do think he did.
Old rules, he would have, though.
Yeah.
Like maybe 10 years ago, he would have probably.
Yeah, but, and you know, maybe that's what they were thinking. They're thinking, as long as they hold him there, that was going to be enough, because to them that he's in an advantageous position. But that's like someone being on your back in guard, and the person on top don't throw really any shots, but it's getting lumped up from underneath. The guy underneath is going to be winning that exchange. You know, you've got to be proactive with your proactive positions, and he just wasn't doing that, and that went against him in the end. And hopefully he'll learn from this, but the only way you're going to learn from it is by accepting it, seeing where you went wrong, and changing it and switching it up next time around. But you're right, you know, I felt like he didn't turn up in the form of it just wasn't switched on, I suppose. It just didn't look like he was amped up to hunt for the win. It was strange with him, But regardless, there was moments for Sharia. There really was. There was moments where he took Jordan down, and he's very, very close at securing the back position. I mean, that could have been a sticky situation. But Jordan is really, really good in the scramble. He seems to just have a good sense of what is and what isn't. I'm talking the grey area stuff now. I'm not talking like solid, you know, back take positions we hooked in, the half positions that happen during scrambles. He was very, very good. If you remember when he fought Paul Hughes, he was really, really good in those scrambles when he got hit to switch on, and Paul Hughes was heading towards his back. is very, very, very good at stopping someone securing hooks in and fixating that position. And that's what we saw again from Jordan. We saw him not allow anyone to dominate him any solid top position for any length of time. He scrambled back to his feet at all times. He was keeping the game going, and Sharia was just trying to stop the game from moving on. And, hey, he got the result now. He's going to be moving on to bigger and better things, whether it's continuing with Cage Warriors or hopefully getting that call from UFC, because I think that's where he truly belongs. The thing I don't want to happen for any Cage Warriors performer is that you get these outstanding talents that come from the same country and they're all cutting at each other's throats to get the number one position and putting losses on each other's records. You know who's going to be a standout talent. Let's shift them on to UFC. I think we touched on it on our other podcast.
Yeah.
And make room for new talent to come through. Trust me, there's a lot of young talent coming through at all times now.
Yeah, I had a Twitter exchange actually earlier today with Jack Shaw about Paddy Pimblett, because he was sort of saying, he asked the question, should he go to the UFC or should he go for the title again? And like for me, for Paddy Pimblett in the lightweight division, I don't feel like there's anyone on his level, and I just feel like it's probably time to move him on, because his all-round game is so good. He's matured, and I just think now's the time for him. We'll talk about his fight in a minute, but first of all, we'll talk about your other fighter who fought on the prelims last night on the same card as Jordan, which is your brother, Richard. Tom had a good tear-up with Yassin Belhaj. He lost 29-28 across the boards by a decision. This was a real close fight, and I actually thought Tom edged it, but
yeah, I'm getting
when it's in the hand of the judges, what did you think?
The judges like Tom, in all honesty, on Cage Warriors.
Okay.
Like that's the. I don't know.
I did see Tom say that on social media today.
They're not looking after Tom, and I don't think they see the star value in it. But this is another matter. But the fight itself, I thought was brilliant from both competitors. And I knew at the time, Yassin was going to get the nod. In my head, I kept telling myself like, nah, Tom's won that because I expect to see what you think comes about often. But I watched the fight back, and round one is clearly Tom's. Could be a 10-8 round to Tom. He dominated it, like absolutely dominated that round. Round three is clearly Belhaj's, because he was striking Tom up with knees through the middle and with the elbows. They was both really fatigued. And then in that third round, the size advantage made all the difference for Belhaj. Tom couldn't quite lift his feet up off the floor to get them takedowns, which he was doing throughout the fight. The round in question is round two. Okay, yeah, I'm his twin brother, so I'm probably a little bit biased, but I've watched it back today, and it could go either way. I want to give it to Tom. The only reason why I wouldn't give it to Tom is because of the guillotine attempt from Belhaj.
Yeah.
It was deep, but Tom fought through it, and Tom come back with his own guillotine attack. So if we go guillotine for guillotine choke, then it's neutral. Tom dominated the majority of the round, so I want to say a 10-8 first round to Tom and a 10-9 second round to Tom. I have Tom winning, but I just don't think Cage Warriors see him as a superstar that he is, and he's worth a lot more to them. And I don't know, I'll give the fight to Tom.
Yeah, I did feel he won.
It's the honest truth, and it's like I'm having like lots of people, and these people I barely know, they're all coming to me on the social media saying Tom won that. Oh, your brother's a warrior. Fucking hell, blah blah blah. Everyone's watching this story with Tom. They're seeing their career unfold, and they're all dead impressed. And mate, there's a lot of people saying about his treatment on the platform. There's a lot of people, and they're all saying the same thing. It's not just me. It's a hell of a lot of people, and they're
I think he's got massive value to Cage Warriors, because not just from a talent point of view, but he very rarely has a snooze fest. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so if you put Tom on a card, he's going to have a war, or he's going to finish someone. And I just think
there are better fights that they can give Tom to increase his value. But to be honest, if he keeps losing, you don't have to pay him any more the second time round. So his value stays low. He's of good value to the company, because they put him in there with anyone. He'll fight anyone. He looks good against anyone. don't have to pay him nothing. And yeah, I don't know. I just don't think he's being treated right. And that's it. I'm just saying it as it is.
Interesting. That's what we want them.
But
it was good. Yeah.
I had him winning the fight, and I've had him winning. There's 2 other fights on that platform. I've had him winning, and the problem is because he's a small in the weight division, it's always quite close. So I'm being salty. Yes, I am. But it's my family that's in there. My family risking life to make other people money. I'm gonna say it as it is. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate your honesty, mate. Danny, as his coach, his friend as well, like, how did you see it, and how did you see the fight unfold, and also what do you make of like what Richard said there?
Yeah, I mean, I agree to a point with what Richard's saying. You know, we talked personally about this, not in a way that has to be a secret or anything. I don't like him being a lightweight, period.
Yeah, you've said that.
Yeah,
it's good.
And look, Cage Warriors know that Tom is a featherweight, and Tom is fighting at a lightweight, and they've got to be thinking to themselves, well, look, he doesn't value himself enough to get down to be effective in the weight division where it's really going to count for him. So what is he doing in the lightweights? Well, to them, it's an athlete that no longer takes himself seriously, so they won't take him seriously. That's honestly how I see it. They're a company that it's cutthroat. You've got to be at your best at all times, and you've got to conduct yourself in the best way possible to get likewise respect and value. To me, Tom being as a lightweight, it's totally ineffective, because the only way he's going to be effective, he can't compete against the top guys, the very, very best in the lightweight. He's not big enough to. He's only ever going to be effective and stand a chance at getting back on track in the featherweight division. But why he's
looked good in both lightweight fights on Cage Warriors, though.
Yeah, okay, but look, even if he got 2 wins at lightweight, and he gets 2 wins in a row against like lower level guys, he ain't going to give me up for the top tier guy now.
Yeah.
He's going to eventually have to go back down to featherweight anyway. But and then he's got to rebuild himself at featherweight anyway. Every fight he does at lightweight is doing nothing to further his career, nothing at all, because he will never ever win the title at lightweight. Period. Yeah. But he can get to title contention in the featherweights. So every fight he's having is, to me, a waste of time, and all it's done is damage his career. And so that's how I will see it. I love Tom to bits. I love you, Mearnsy, to bits. But it frustrates me that Jordan knows how to do the weight cut in a very, very well, safe, constructive way. He could give it to Tom on a plate and get him back down to featherweight. Listen, this is the craziness. Jordan fought on the day heavier than Tom was, and they were both in 2 different weight divisions. That ain't right. That ain't looking after your health. That ain't taking yourself seriously. So how can you expect a promotion to take you seriously when you're acting like a journeyman?
But here's a question for you, Dan, then.
And I will be harsh on him because I want to protect him.
Yeah, I know. I understand that. It's all coming from love and wanting him to be the best he can. But here's a question for you, then. If Cage Warriors, as a company, or whatever company, was to pay not just Tom but other fighters more and treat them and promote them as best they can, meaning that they could give up their full-time jobs, meaning that they could put all their training into fighting, they would get the best version of it, not just Tom Mearns but every fighter. Do you see what I mean? Go on there, Richard.
I think basically at the domestic level, part of the art is how do you free up your time to become a full-time athlete. So Jordan's extremely well calculated and has manifested his whole career, you know, by being a full-time athlete. He was PTing and all that. So to be a professional fighter, you've got to earn money outside of the sport in a way that serves you in your training, if you know what I mean. So that is part of the skill. So, and that is all on the fighters. But I guess Tom's bit, but me included, we're simple men. We don't know how to really make money.
Oh my God,
train
you
full time.
It's
true. We are only fighters. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, this game, it's a fact. They don't pay. It doesn't pay until you get to the UFC. So it's like you gotta get everything in order on the way to the UFC so that you can make the weight cut. So me and Tom are roofing at the moment. A cut to featherweight could be us passing out on top of a roof. Do you know what I mean? And we're carrying 20 kilograms up ladders 2-story high, You know, you
Yeah,
need
no, I
to eat
appreciate
good,
it.
and this is part of the skill of being a fighter.
Yeah.
Is how do you manage all of this? So
And I totally
that's down
understand
on
that.
us. That's down on Tom.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, for sure.
I totally
That's
understand that.
no one else's shoulders.
But then you've got to make that choice. Either, you know, just being a domestic fighter, or do you want to really make it world class? And you got to, what sacrifices you're going to make?
Yeah. That is, I think, in my opinion, the most difficult part of being a fighter, which that's where you've got to scratch your head together and really make a plan, put pen to paper.
We spoke, Simon, isn't it?
And that's what we're going to work on. You know, we'll work on that.
Sure.
But
Me and Simon, we spoke.
I say we get back to the actual fight. This is a whole nother subject matter. You know, the fight was brilliant and the show was brilliant. You know, that's what this one is going to be about. Yeah.
It was a great fight, great performance by Tom. I mean, obviously we always worry because he does give away a lot of tyres. You know, he had that devastating loss.
The size is what cost him the third round. So he does need to go further.
Sure, absolutely that. And I think he will be a real contender in that featherweight division. And you know, it might sound like we're arguing. We're not. We've just got Tom from different viewpoints. But I think ultimately, I'm
with you, Danny. I totally understand what you're saying. Yeah,
it's not easy. This is something that me and
Simon
have spoke about.
The hardest part of the game. Training's fun.
Yeah,
that's it.
Fighters
training
have
is hard.
You have relationships. Yeah, you have relationships. You have jobs. And it ain't straightforward. Everyone just sees the two fighters getting in there and think that that's all they do. They don't. They have lives to lead. And it ain't easy. It really ain't easy. But if Tom wants to make things easy for himself, he's got to go through some more adversity. And my goodness, for a pro fighter,
he's gone through a fucking lot.
He's someone who's experienced it all. But going through everything he's been through, I want to see him push one last real hard time. He's still young enough to pull it off. He's got a fantastic team of coaches, a fantastic team of students around him, and a lot of people have a lot of love for Tom that want to help get him back on track. And he can do it. He can do it. Like I say, Jordan has offered it to him. He offered it to him that night. Let me sort out all your diet plan. Let me sort out your weight cut. Let's get you back where you belong. And I think if he does that, he'll get back into relevancy within 18 months.
Yeah. Like, the frustrating thing from fighting overall is MMA fighters, so like a Cage Warriors, but like if you looked at like boxing, the same sort of level, same level as Cage Warriors, but in boxing, the fighters get paid so much more, so they can afford to train full time, and they don't need to kind of have jobs or whatever because they're able to. And that's what frustrates me, like, overall, is like I wish that these guys who were putting on these incredible shows for Cage Warriors, I wish that the money was there for them, because Cage Warriors
full time. The rest, the extra time just means you can actually recover from training. That's literally
of course.
He puts all the work in as a professional athlete does, but he just doesn't have the luxuries as like professional athletes in other sports, you know. But fighters, we fight for other reasons. It's not really about the money as such. It's like martial arts is like a childhood pursuit of being your best self, and it just goes on. And the fact that you can get in the cage and perform a couple of times a year is actually a bonus on top of the lifestyle. Martial arts is a lifestyle, so you know, I'm grateful to be in there every time.
Yeah. Going back to the fight, I thought, like, I still believe, like, I kind of agree with you, Richard, that Tom thought he won that second round.
Yeah, he did. He won it.
But
he's won a few others as well. That's the fact.
It's one of them, and it's unfortunate. On that, one of the fights on the prelims last night was really, I found, fascinating to watch. It was Nicholas LeBlond versus Darren O'Gorman. That knockout was vicious.
Hard to watch.
Yeah.
Was that the one where his head hit the
he had to have oxygen, and he was
quite lifeless. Bless him.
It was scary for a few minutes.
Yeah, it was uppercut, wasn't it? Yeah. Shocking.
Nicholas LeBlond looks like he got a bit of power there.
Over this Trilogy event, there was a lot of knockouts. The whole event was so exciting. Like,
I tell you,
knockout.
Yeah, I tell you, even Crazy Horse as well. Josh Reed had a phenomenal knockout.
On the first night, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the fighters which I'm going to be watching very, very closely is that Swedish guy who fought Aiden Stephen last night, Tobias Harila. He won via ground strikes like a minute or so into the first round, but wow, he looked impressive as all hell. Like, and I had never seen him fight before, and like Aiden Stephen is no mug. Like he's a good fighter, and Tobias Harila just went
was in
through
the
him.
open guard, wasn't it? Very, very early on in the open guard.
Yeah, like
he
a
had the
minute
guard.
14 in.
Yeah, he had the guard very, very loose, and he did look very powerful and precise with the punching. Very, very aggressive.
We're going to talk about certain Scouser in a minute, but I want to talk about another Scouser first, and that was Liam Gittins. He was defeated by Brian Bouland in 52 seconds. This was weird. Like, Liam Gittins came out like a house on fire. He was throwing all sorts of strikes. He was calling Brian Bouland on. Really, really, really aggressive and frenetic. And he just got caught at 52 seconds in. It might have even been the first couple of strikes his opponent really sort of threw with any force. Danny, I talked to you briefly over text yesterday about this. It was weird, wasn't it?
Yeah, this was the one where he got knocked on his bum and he received another strike and then tried to stand up. Yeah, look, it did look like it was an early stoppage, but not really. He got knocked on his bum real hard, and then he received another really hard hit on the ground.
Really
with
clean
no
shot.
intelligent defense at all. He had both his elbows planted on the mat, and he received another strike, and the ref stepped in. If you get knocked off your feet and you're put on your back, if you haven't got the time to scramble up, you've got to cover it and try to improve your position whilst covering. He didn't. He had both his elbows on the mat and received another, potentially hard enough to strike to sort of knock most people out. But yeah, okay. So he got.
What do you make of his tactics, mate?
A little strange because he's small at the weight. He's small, isn't he? Do you see the size difference between them? And to go in as fast and as hard as that, trying to trade power on power, was not a good idea. I don't think it's a very clever strategy at all, to be honest.
It's kind of how Liam often fights. He really falls under pressure all the time, but he's usually not that much of a size deficit.
Yeah,
it was a good round.
Yeah, great. I've seen him fight like that. Yeah, 52 seconds, and it was like incredible 52 seconds of just excitement. But it was a little bit. He was a bit, he got caught at the end of the day. Is when you go in that aggressive and you're calling your opponent on and you're trading with anyone. If you get caught by a couple of clean shots, that's the risk. That's the risk you have if you go in and trade like that. And he got caught. And then in the co-main event, Paddy Pimblett made his return against David Martinez. As expected, he didn't have too much trouble. He's so slick in the grappling. It's just very, very nice to watch. Richard, what did you think of Paddy Pimblett's performance versus David Martinez, and also what do you think he should do next?
Well, in terms of the actual performance, Paddy just annihilated him. There's not a lot else to say about that. He was flawless. He started off the whole sequence with that lead head kick, which he skipped in with. Flurry of super aggressive boxing, and then they go to ground. I'm trying to think. So Martinez tries to close the distance, and Paddy just hip tosses him. Do you mean he was just everything he did was just he was a step ahead all the way, hip toss, and then he gets the back take from the hip toss, and then just gets the choke. It was just it was completely flawless. And what I think he should do next is so that I'm sure that lightweight title fight is there for him if he wants. But it's he's young, so much talent. It's get to UFC and just start making your UFC run. Time is is a key aspect of the sport and the MMA career. Just go straight to UFC. He's got the talent to fight some of the best in UFC. Get straight there, get making the money.
Yeah, I think it's time. I do. I really do. I just think there's nothing left for him to prove or do in the Cage Warriors now. Like, he's done it all.
Yeah.
Like, he's been
like
champion.
He's been missed on Cage Warriors because he's just synonymous with the brand. Like,
yeah, he's the poster boy, isn't he?
You think Cage Warriors, you think Paddy, and like, I love watching him on Cage Warriors. But he's got so much potential. Just get it on the UFC. He could be fighting the best in the world, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Absolutely, I completely agree. Danny, what did you make of Paddy's performance, and kind of where do you see him, or where do you think he should go next?
Yeah, really solid performance. It was nice to see him not completely rush in from the get-go. There was a little feeling out process. Just loosened himself up, and as soon as he was ready to go, well, he just went, didn't he?
Yeah, he's slick.
He summed it up. Aggressive kick, aggressive hands, and that hip throw was so clean and so well executed. It looked like a demonstration at a seminar. He did, before he took the back, he did have a mount position, if you remember rightly, Richard. He took the mount position, was very calm and controlled in there. He knew he had everything in place and had full control of the situation. And again, he didn't rush there. He threw a little bit of ground and pound. He was sequenced to the back. The choke sinked in. He had so much energy about him. He could have pulled the poor guy's head off if he wanted to. Yeah,
he looks like he's got all time in the world, and I think that shows the level of his, particularly his grappling, but even his striking. He's got so much time. He looks like he could just do whatever he wants to do, and that's kind of it. And that, to me, that tells you that come on, he's probably a level above these guys now. And
you've got to think, Paddy has been around Cage Warriors for such a long time.
He's grown up in there, hasn't he? He's made his debut when he was 18. He's 26 now.
You just said it. He's growing up on it, and that's just it. He's reached that point, like he was saying when we had him on, that he feels that he's matured. He's glad that he didn't go to UFC before because he said he wasn't ready. He feels ready now, and I feel that he's ready now. There's nothing left for him. He's done everything there was to be done. And yes, out of the interest as a fan, I'd love to see him fight the top people in that weight division right now and go for the title. It would be a great matchup. But it's just been going over old ground effectively, I suppose. I want to see him go to UFC. That's
if they do that title fight, and I think Graham Boylan did an interview during the show, and he said like they'll make him a big offer to stay.
He did actually say in an interview he'd like to be two-weight champion.
Yeah, and do you think he beats Sadari?
I think he beats Sadari. Yeah. He mentioned Visenik in the interview, so maybe it's what Paddy wants to do at the end of the day. Maybe he does want to create the most solid Cage Warriors legacy that he's always going to look back on. So I don't know. It's exciting to see what he does next. Either way, whether it's Cage Warriors or UFC, I'm going to be tuning in. And I think anyone will be.
He's one of those guys, isn't he, which you want to watch. I gotta be honest, I'd be surprised if he was to go down to featherweight. I'd be amazed.
Too big.
I don't think he could.
He looks too big now.
But it's just he mentioned
when he was younger, when he was 18, 19, and he was featherweight champion. That was different. I think he's too big now, and I think as a lightweight, it's the perfect weight for him. I think I gotta be honest. I think he beats Sadari pretty snugly. One of the other fights I really wanted to get your opinion on was the bantamweight title fight from Friday. Jack Cartwright defeated Sylvester Miller via disqualification for headbutts. Danny, what did you make of this, mate?
Well, I think Cartwright certainly had some questions put to him that he couldn't find answers to on the night, and that was the low double and low single, the low entries at his legs. Cartwright's so dominant everywhere else, but this guy is very, very short in stature, clearly quite strong along with it, and has got a good dabble of wrestling capability. He was really controlling things, really, really doing well. Cartwright had a chance, didn't he, an armbar early on, but other than that, this lad was, what's his name, Miller, was it? Miller?
Miller, yeah.
Yeah, Sylvester Miller.
Yeah,
Sylvester Miller.
He was ever so good, but then the strangeness started. I mean, it was an unusual way to ground a pound where you're hammering down and bringing your head down as well. I don't think there was any intent to headbutt whatsoever. but the ref didn't like it. He pulls him to one side, try to be very, very clear, and it happens again. Pulls him to one side, he goes to the coaches, explains to the coaches, hey, can you make sure that he understands? I don't want to see that head coming down. Now, whether you think the ref right or wrong, the ref didn't like what he was seeing. And he did make it so clear, look, I don't like it. There's going to be something that's going to happen with this that I don't want to see. So it could be an unintentional headbutt. Because I don't think that was intentional, but it was a bit dodgy.
Yeah, I just watched it back, and the third, like the final one, which causes the disqualification, like it's a proper headbutt, and it's only the fact that it comes down like on the glances to the side of his head. If he'd brought that down more central, he'd have split his nose over his face. Like it was a lot of force with it. It's a shame because he was doing very, very well. Miller was. I don't think he can have any complaints. I just don't think he can complain because he was warned. He was told.
100%.
Yeah,
because like I don't think that they weren't intentional, but they were actual strikes nonetheless, and like they were accumulating. They kept landing, and it's a world title fight. That's not within the rules, and that's it. It's just not in the rules. So, and he warned him, and he was in a tough place because there was also like a communication barrier because I don't think Sylvester really speaks English. So he had to explain it to his corner, and then he had to stop it. But it was a shame because he was winning.
It was a shame, but I think the ref was being really clear. And again, another ref might not have ever put it into question what he was seeing. You know, there was a risk of heads coming together with that style of ground and pounding. But what I think has happened, I think this Miller clearly trains and does this for his ground and pound and control. He likes to obviously punch and come down low with that head to help have that body-to-body control in the close and open
He does
guard.
have a really short physique.
Very short.
And Cartwright's head was quite high up in the guard.
It was.
Yeah.
So obviously he's done this in training and got away with it. Now he's probably training with people taller than Cartwright as well, because the gym ain't full of tiny people.
No.
You know, people when we have like Luke Shanks down, he's having to spar with people that are touching 6 foot quite often. And when he's in the close and open guard, if he was to ground and pound in that fashion, beating it down if you strike, you know, your head would be hitting the body. But in this case, he had enough height to him to come down where it was actually going close to his head. And unfortunately, that style just didn't suit that situation with that particular ref. But like I say, I can't reiterate enough, the ref made it very, very clear that he didn't like what he was saying, and he should have adjusted, but he didn't. He almost come down even more so aggressively with his head. So I'm not surprised the ref ended up not only taking 1 point, 2 points, but also the disqualification.
I think it was good refereeing because it was easy to ignore, and he pulled him up on it. I thought it was great referee decision. Jan Blachowicz posted about it today, didn't he? Saying he wants to see the rematch between the two.
That'd be fantastic.
But it's a shame. It's just a shame for the fight to end that way.
Yeah, it's a shame. He would have been, he'd have been the new champion most likely. So, from his point of view, it was different. A couple of other notable performances, fights. Ben Ellis lost his undefeated record to Manny Akpan. I gotta say, Manny Akpan I thought was quite impressive. I spoke to Ben last night and this morning. He's disappointed, of course, but sometimes it's the way things go in fighting, and he could go away and improve and train. And he's a young guy. He's coming up. He's shown already in his previous fights that there's something about him. But I was impressed with Manny Akpan. I gotta say. I know you saw this one, Dan. What did you think of Manny Akpan?
Yeah, he's
got a really weird style, hasn't he?
Really tall as well at the weight, isn't he? Yeah. I mean, it was a really, really good finish. I mean, as soon as he got space to express his striking, he did it to great effect. The guy looks like he's a potential handful if you allow him the space to activate all those long limbs.
Yeah.
It was really nice what I saw from him. But it's hard to read into it really, because there was so much more that we could potentially see from both these fighters, but it ended the way that it ended. But it was just a great finish. I think it was really, really good, really quite inventive the way he went about it. It was great. It was flamboyant, it was flashy. It'd be great for the highlight reel. I think we're going to see good things from this young lad.
Yeah, I thought it was really impressive. A couple of other guys who were impressive was Paul Hughes on the Thursday, and also Garry on the Friday. Richard, what did you make of Paul Hughes' performance? Obviously, off the back of his loss to Jordan, he fought James Hendon. He won by unanimous decision, but it was a good all-round performance.
Friday,
Thursday or Friday? Thursday, I think.
Friday. Give me 1 minute. Honestly, there's so many fights.
Yeah, it's Thursday.
So many nights to get through. Right. So I think with this one, because like at the same time, I'm sort of prepping Tom for his fight coming up. So I only actually got to see round 1 of this fight. But it was good. It's like in my notes, just lots of leg kicks from both. Hughes dropped Hendon with a right cross, and Hendon quickly recovers. So it was obviously a dominant round 1 for Paul, and that's pretty much all I got. I think the rest, me and Tom, at this point, had to dip off and just do some pads.
Yeah.
So it's one hell of a week it was.
What did you think of Paul Hughes' performance, Dan? Because I thought he was really good.
Very, very solid. They both come out really clearly wanting to try to make something of the leg kicks on each other. But none of them was to get a decisive advantage there, so they had to start going into other things, which was some punching exchanges and quite a bit of wrestling exchanges. That was really interesting because Hendon's got quite an established judo background, I believe. We've seen him be very, very effective with his takedowns, and he's kind of been unstoppable with that. But Hughes had some answers for him. It wasn't so easy for Hendon to bully Hughes. Hughes is a bag of tricks, man. He's very, very similar to Jordan in so many ways, and he's a real physical guy as well. Pretty tall at the weight. He's kind of got everything going for him. Hendon's very, very short, very, very strong in a particular way, which is for his takedowns and his grappling, but he was unable to get it to the ground and keep it there long enough to show any advantages. And eventually started trying to muscle Hughes down as the rounds went on. And in doing so, he started to get himself a little bit laboured, a little bit tired. And Hughes was able to capitalise and actually take the back of Hendon standing on numerous occasions and utilise some takedowns himself to a point where he had opportunities for some submissions as well. But predominantly, I think we saw the differences start to really display themselves in the striking. And as we went through the rounds, we started to see Hughes establish that advantage of reach, range and explosivity with the feet, and stumbled and rocked Hendon a few times. And I was generally really, really impressed. There is a couple of mistakes that I feel he will have to work on. He had an unusually lowered stance, and he was doing that through his back leg, which does mean you have a lot of weight on your lead leg, Hughes. So he was getting his shin targeted and thigh targeted a lot in the early round. But other than that, look, he's a solid individual. He's so similar to Jordan in many, many ways. He has a similar sort of attitude to the sport.
I think that rematch is going to be sensational again. I think I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah,
if that gets rerun, it's going to be fantastic. But I'd really love to see Hughes versus Sharia. I think that'd be a fantastic fight. I really do.
Well, like a number one contender bout between the two. Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Jordan's been extremely active. How long has he been in Cage Warriors? Not very long, and he's ran through. He's got 4 wins, and every one of them he's had either very experienced or extremely talented young fighters to contend with each time. So, I would like to see him take a couple of months out just to get back to just the learning process of things and going back to school regards to classes, so he ain't permanently in a fight camp. And just give them a chance to regroup themselves and decide what we want to do regards his career, because Jordan's in a position for options now.
Yeah, 100%. The other name I mentioned was Garry, who fought on Friday. He opened the main card. I thought he was exceptionally impressive.
I think that was the performance
real good
on Friday.
Yeah, it was real impressive, wasn't it? It was. He just looks like a bit of a star. He's got something about him. His attitude makes him. He gives like interviews which make you want to listen, and his fights you want to watch. He finishes fights, but he's technically very good as well. His striking's crisp. What I like about him, he sets up his kicks really, really well with his jab, and I love that. I love when fighters don't just throw sort of high kicks or head kicks
That's like
just for the sake of it.
On the first trilogy, he got that George McManus with a
that's right, yeah.
deadly lead. It was a lead head kick, I'm pretty sure. This one was off the rear leg, but this one was sickening. The guy was pretty lifeless for a while.
It's I like the way that he sets it up, though. He doesn't just throw it like just for the because he can. He sets it up whether it's with his striking or some low kicks. He always is moving and looking for those combinations, and I think that shows the skill level, Dan, doesn't it? It's not just throwing the strikes because you're capable of throwing them. It's throwing the strikes in combinations to set up the big strike, the finishing strike.
Yeah, Garry was not doing anything just because. He was doing it all for a reason. Everything was pre-prepped. He looked very, very good all round. You got to remember as well, this guy's 6'3". 6'3". That's good height to bring to that division. And looks athletic.
What weight is he? What weight? Welterweight, yeah, because it's in the tournament, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's right.
That's pretty big.
I think he really had a plan for that fight because I made notes and I watched round one. Ian dominates round one, and but it was very precise boxing and striking, but he was using a lot of leg kicks. And then in round two, before the head kick, he completely switched the leg kick for front kicks and was only throwing front kicks. And it just seemed like a completely different tactic. So in round one, he was more on the outside. Round two, he was more forward footwork using front kick. It was like he showed him one game plan in round one and come out in round two with a completely different game plan. And I think that's how he just picked the guy apart. Like in round one, you do a lot of reading of your opponent, and then you go back to your corner and you think you know what they're about after experiencing 5 minutes of the fight. And then you come out in round two just doing different stuff. It was very simple. It was just round one was a lot of leg kicks. Round two was a lot of front kicks. And I just think because he'd been used, every time you see that slight adjustment of the leg, you think the kick's coming, and it was leg kicks in round one. Round two, it was just a different kick. And then soon enough, the opportunity was there for head kick, and he just threw it. Must have been like quite a subconscious attack because he just threw it so fast, it was like automatic. But it was just it's just class. And
he's got
between him and Jack Grant.
Yeah, that's gonna be good. That is. Do you think he wins Ian Garry, or do you think Grant takes it?
Why it's exciting because it's going to be a striker versus grappler, but I think Ian does have really good grappling as well. But Jack Grant's grappling is like phenomenal. He just got so many finishes with chokes, and he's a real killer on the ground. And Ian's just a killer on the feet. So I'm just excited to see where the fight goes. It's hard to call it.
Yeah, me too. Danny, why does
Ian on the ground? It'll be Jack.
Yeah, 100%. Danny, why Ian Garry's got quite a low stance for someone who's so tall. Not all the time, but he'll go into like this quite wide, low stance a lot. Why is he doing that?
Yeah, I think he's just very, very young and energetic. It gives him base to be explosive, to hit hard, to go in hard. Just to show intent. It's almost like a posture of, come near me, I'm going to attack. That was almost like, it's almost like expressing his personality in there, because he is quite flamboyant. I got to listen to him and Jordan talking quite a bit, and you can just get a sense of his youth and young demeanour, I suppose you would say. I just think he's just expressing himself there, because getting into a low stance is not exactly the most efficient thing to do in the world, but I just think he was just stretching himself out.
Brings your head lower though, which can be a tactic. So the guys aren't punching up.
Yeah, could be that. But I just like what I saw. I think he grappled really well as well. I think when him and Grant face off to each other, I don't think Grant's going to have it all his own way on the ground. I really don't. And if I'm going to edge it towards anyone, I'm going to edge it towards the striker. Really, if you're going to have the advantage on the grappling, you have to have a considerable advantage on the grappling. And I'm not so sure their difference in grappling is going to be enough for it to be a whitewash on the ground. So Grant's going to have to deal with Ian Garry on the feet more often. I think Ian Garry's going to have to deal with Grant on the ground. So I would edge it slightly in favour of Ian Garry for this one.
Yeah, it's going to be good. The last Cage Warriors fight I just want to mention, mate, is our previous guest, Crazy Horse Josh Reed. Obviously, his previous fight was his return from quite a long layout. He looked much more himself. I don't know if did you see this one, Dan? Did you see Josh's fight?
I'm not too sure whether I did.
So he won with punches and knee. He knocked him out with a knee. It was on Friday's prelims. It was the second fight.
Yeah, this was when he done a knee up the middle and then followed up with punches, and the ref steps in.
That's it.
Almost a little early. You could suspect it was a little bit early because he wasn't an outright knockout, was it? It was a ref
he was like a wobble.
Yeah, it was a wobble, but it was really good. I didn't see all of this. I was just doing other things in between, trying to watch it and stuff. But the refs were stepping in quite
quickly, weren't they?
I don't want to say early, but you got to remember Mark Goddard was there and he's really overlooking them all, and they don't want to be slipping up when he's there. They're all trying to make good impressions. They all want to head to the UFC at some point, and I feel like they was acting like they was under his guidance and under his eye. So
I thought referee
early and late.
Mitchell, I forget his first name. Is it Lee Mitchell? I forget which referee.
Mitchell,
I think so. Yeah. Rich Mitchell. I thought he was outstanding actually for all 3 days. I thought he really was. And obviously we had the disqualification, which he dealt with exceptionally. Okay. I want to move on to the UFC because obviously we're an hour in already. Danny, you said you were staying for half hour. What are you doing, my friend? Are you just staying to talk a bit of UFC? You're here now. You may as well.
Yeah, I watched 3 of the UFC fights. I managed to get 3 of them in.
Which ones did you watch? Then we'll do those first.
Yeah, I'll just tell you. I watched. I watched the Bronson Holland. I watched Griffin versus Kennan. And I watched the female bout, Baez versus, what was her name? Baez versus, how do you pronounce her name?
Ruiz. Montserrat Ruiz versus Shannon Baez.
No,
it's Montserrat Canejo.
Yeah, it was Canejo. She had a different opponent.
Right, okay. I've got it written
down.
But
I couldn't remember how to pronounce the name. Yeah, Canejo. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Canejo, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
What an interesting match. Did you both see this one?
Yeah.
Well, so we'll start with the women's one.
I really enjoyed it for the grappling aspect. I mean, that Canejo, she kept going for the head and arm throw, but she kept pulling it off. She was giving away some height. She was giving away some reach. She had to get in close. She clearly knew what she wanted with regard to getting the other girl down, but she did. And we ended up with this really strange fixed piece position, which was enough to keep it grounded, where she had like a form of scarf hold, but she made a little error with her leg position, and the other girl was her name. Fucking terrible. Getting their names.
Cheyenne Baez.
Baez, yeah. Baez had her leg, so she was always threatening to pop out from that scarf hold to the back, which is always the risk with scarf hold. So Canejo, although performing very, very well, she was making slight errors, but she was able to keep the head and arm in, work off some little proactivity. There's always a threat of the submission there as well. She actually utilised it really, really well. But she got there again and again and again. And the interesting thing was she made a mistake with her leg position where it was her left leg, which was the upper leg, which makes you risk of having your back taken. Then in the second round, she ended up getting the other leg caught up in the guard whilst having the scarf hold, which is very, very unusual position. So for the fact of its unusual positioning, I was really intrigued watching this. I think it was fantastic that someone so small and little in an already little division could be so effective, and it was just fantastic. I mean, she just had the one go-to all the time, and Baez just never had an answer enough for it. She was a better striker. She could be arguably a better grappler, but she was being put into the sweet spot that Canejo just loved to use, and Baez just had no answer for it. She just getting put there time and time again. Now, I don't know what happened at the end of the fight. I don't know whether there was some harsh words said or someone thought they was being out of order. I don't know what it was about, whether Baez was just frustrated. But they ended up breaking into a bit.
I think there was something said on the ground.
Maybe, yeah.
I think Canejo was saying something, and then before the end of the round is when Baez was really trying to just throw some desperate strikes, And
Right.
I think there was just like one or two that were after the bell, and then they just got
Maybe you're
heated.
right.
I just think it was
I don't know.
in the moment of the
I-
fight, just getting they got carried away with the aggression. I think.
Yeah.
It's just
I just thought
frustration.
Byers was frustrated. I thought Byers felt like, oh, come on, I don't feel like I've even been in a fight. But she was getting.
Yeah.
Look,
They were swearing
Starfold
at
is
each
not
other,
very.
saying all sorts, weren't they?
Yeah, they were sticking the middle finger
Flicking
up, whether
each
they
other
kept fine. I mean, Dana White's normally well strict on things like that, but you know, the big thing was
Yeah.
used a couple of times in there. I heard some of the officials saying, ladies, but
Yeah.
they weren't happy with each other. But I actually really enjoyed the fight for its extraordinary ground position.
I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, I
It
thought it
reminded
was
me
very,
of
very good.
Ronda Rousey a little bit.
Yes,
With them
yeah, that's
scaffold
right.
throws. It was just like seeing old school Ronda Rousey, and I was just such a huge fan of that era of UFC.
Yeah.
Like, and because she just did the same throw each time, and that's kind of like when you watch Ronda fight, you knew what she was going to do, so you hoped her opponents had a plan to stop it, and she just did it every time anyway, and it was like that.
Yeah.
She had this one technique of Kaneda's was so sublime that every time she set it up, it couldn't be stopped. Like it's just excellent technique, and she was so good at keeping the girl pinned with the scarf hold, and then she nearly got she got like crucifix position sometimes.
Oh,
There
yeah,
was
briefly
risk
she
of
did.
often was risk of back take, which Danny was saying because the legs were tied up, but Canelo just really dominated it, and I thought Baez did have the upper hand in the striking, but she couldn't keep Canelo at range, and then when she
Yeah,
was in range, it dragged her down.
100%.
Yeah,
It's
great
just
fight.
a very fascinating fight to watch. I really, really enjoyed just kind of tuning in and watching it. I thought it was really good, impressive, and I like to see that bit of like passion and aggression after, because I feel like it does. You know, as long as it's within reason, it just shows they care. Shows they give it either way. Like
You can say it's unprofessional, but at the end of the day, it is fighting. Like
yeah, and it's in the heat of the moment, isn't it?
Invested sport, you know, you can't really criticise them too much. It was unprofessional, but it's a fight. So
just before we move on to the Keenan Max Griffin fight, I did want to get, because I know Danny's going to go after these UFC 3 fights. I did want to get your opinion on Julia Storylenko. I think that's how you pronounce her name. Oh Jesus! Nearly fell over. She collapsed at the weigh-ins. I think 3 times as she was weighing in. She didn't look sturdy on her feet. She got on the weighing scales, fell back. Everyone ran in. They kind of steadied her. She weighed again. And she figured. Then the 3rd time they kind of binned it, and they binned the fight. You know, they had to bin the fight. There's no way you can keep that fight on once she's collapsed in public 3 times. It's just what it is. Like the UFC, if she was to stagger about and collapse like that while in the weigh-in, which goes everywhere around the world on TV and YouTube and all this, if she then went and had a fight, it went 3 rounds, went to the scorecards, and then after that fight she collapsed with some sort of problem from being struck multiple times after a bad weight cut, and she collapsed, they would be open to all sorts of criticism, potentially action for not looking after the fighters. Disappointing, but it is what it is. Danny, what do you think about the scenes of seeing her collapse like that, and also the cancelling of the fight and whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, such a shame that the fight had to be cancelled, but there was no other option in my mind. The girl was clearly taking the weight cut too far, and it was too much for her. God forbid, imagine if they let the fight go on and then she gets horrendously knocked out and something happened. It put the whole sport in jeopardy. So, it was sad scenes, really. But this is the truth of what these athletes are going through. They're always on a tightrope with this. It's not an easy sport to be involved with. It ain't just a fight. There's a weight cut, and like we spoke about with Richard, there's going to work and family issues, and
so
just goes to show the truth of the situation with these fighters.
She said the problem was not my weight cut. It was actually one of the easiest weight cuts of my career. The weight was dropping. She said the weight was dropping too fast. The main issue, I think, was that I made weight too early. Basically, the weight weigh-ins start at 9 a.m. and I was already on weight at 5 a.m. It was just too long of a time on the weight. As everybody knows, when you cut weight, you cannot be on this weight for too long because you've already at the limit of your dehydration. That was an issue why it all happened. She says, she's upset and she was ready to fight. Obviously, you guys know a lot more about weight cutting than what I do. But once a fighter, and once a fighter faints or collapses during that weight cut, particularly if it's publicly, it's all the fight's off. And these days, there's no way around it. I
actually think COVID adds another element of risk to the weight cutting. I really do. Okay. Because all these professional athletes, we don't social distance because we've got to train, we've got to roll. But everyone would have had it at some point, and it does hamper the body's respiratory system. And to cut weight, you have to be incredibly fit. But it's just another thing to consider, I think, with the weight cuts. And we have seen more fighters going up in weight as a result of not having access to saunas and things like that. Yeah. So the weight cut game has changed a little bit because of the pandemic. Like the boys at Cage Warriors have no access. All the Trilogy events, you can't access a sauna because of the government guidelines. It's a whole other dimension to the weight cuts scene, But it's actually, unfortunately, it's a common scene in MMA. People collapsing at weigh-ins. It just is what it is. Yeah. So it's part of the art is nailing that weight cut, and it's often as difficult as the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. The other bit of news I wanted to ask you about, Dan, was Alex Volkanovski was supposed to defend his title versus Brian Ortega next week, but he's revealed he's tested positive for COVID-19 and the fight's off, be rescheduled. He tested negative after leaving Australia, negative before entering the UFC bubble, and then when he had this test inside the bubble, it was then positive. It is what it is.
Who knows? I don't know, but it was positive nevertheless, and the fight is off, and I'm absolutely gutted.
Yeah, that was going to be a banger. I'm very disappointed. Also, Brad Riddell was ruled out of UFC on Saturday due to COVID protocols as well. It doesn't say whether he was tested positive or if he broke the restrictions within the bubble, but just says COVID protocols. So back to the card last night. The next one we're going to talk about is, because we're going out of order because of the Mr. Batten, but Max Griffin versus Song Keenan. Richard, we'll start with you, mate. What did you make of Max Griffin return to the cage?
Let me get to my notes. My notes are massive. I've got so many Cage Warrior notes and then the UFC notes. There's just so much going on this week. It was mad. Right, one minute. It was round 1 KO, wasn't it? Yeah, right. Just give me a minute.
Should have started with me, so.
Yeah, well,
I know.
It was over so quick. I'm not as intelligent as Danny. I can't just store up. My memory's not as good. Like Danny is like the AI of the human mind. Do you know what I mean? It's just infinite data just readily available. Do you know he's really good at chess?
I bet he wouldn't beat me. Wouldn't beat me, Danny.
He KO'd him with a lead hook and cross, didn't he? And it was brilliant finish. I've not got much to say about it other than it was such a quick round.
I really enjoy Max Griffin. I really enjoy Max Griffin fighting, and it was great to see him back looking real sharp, because that punch which nailed Song was a peach of a right hand. What did you make of this one, Dan?
A few times before.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I mean, there was a little feeling out. Griffin shot in, didn't he? And had like a high clutch position, was trying to feel out whether he's got anything there in regards to takedown's potentiality. But it wasn't there. Max Griffin backs back out, just sticks to the striking, lands a really hard jab, which stumbled Song. He's stumbling back, and then he very, very quickly followed up with a 1-2. It was actually so fast, I thought it was a cross punch. But it was actually a 1-2 on the second exchange that knocked him clean off his feet and knocked him out quite extensively. Yeah, it was beautiful, and I'm the same as you. I quite like Griffin. He comes with some intensity. He comes in quite high wide, bit of character as well, mildly cocky, but he gets it done, and he got it done tonight or last night. Sorry, very very well.
Absolutely, mate. It was impressive. The main event of the evening was Derek Brunson versus Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland had a lot to say throughout this fight as it was going on, but Derek Brunson took it via unanimous decision, 49-45, 49-46, 49-46. Danny, we'll go to you first. What did you make of this? What did you make of Derek Brunson? What did you make of Kevin Holland? Because this was a big opportunity, a big night for Kevin Holland to really show how much he's improved, and it didn't happen for him.
No, it didn't. It was both comical to watch at times, frustrating to watch at times, and ultimately left me scratching my head at what Holland was doing. Holland's a real talent. He's got so much potential, but it was almost like the borderline didn't take the fight serious. It was like he was in there with a brother mucking about. I don't know. But, Bronson did some great things. He struck well. He was patient for the takedown. When he nailed the takedown, he was really solid on the ground. He was just pinching the rounds off from Holland. Holland started to overswing his punches, was getting off balance as he threw, and was just being capitalised on by Bronson. Bronson did really, really good. He looked seasoned, he looked experienced, and looked mature in there. And Holland was the complete opposite. He looked inexperienced, he looked immature. As much as he had me smiling there, I couldn't help it because his character is quite comical at times. It just made me think that he wasn't concentrating, and he allowed Bronson to just capitalise round after round after round. And there was not an urgency enough to try to get back on winning tracks. Instead, he had putting hopes only on a knockout, and ultimately those knockouts were missing and getting him taken down yet again. Yeah, a absolute confusing tactic. I don't know what he was thinking. God knows what his cornermen were telling him in between. That must have been going nuts.
Well, Derek Brunson's no mug, is he?
To Habib.
Yeah, because I saw that on social media. Habib was streaming it on Instagram, and he was telling him what to do. And it's like, I don't know. I just thought it was quite.
It was a joke.
It was so weird.
He really didn't give a fuck. But he's like Danny said, he is such a special talent. I think he was confident whilst he was in there that he could just knock him out. Like, we've seen him get that knockout from the bottom. That was freakish. And he's such a specimen. But it was, I don't know, it's like he was having fun in there, just enjoying himself. But he was trying to downplay the moment, but too much so that he really did downplay it in his mind and just didn't care. And he knew he lost at the end of it, but he didn't really mind. And I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, that's weird. That's a weird attitude to have, isn't it?
Very
when you don't mind losing.
He fights just because he can. Do you know what I mean? But he's in the UFC. It's like he's at the pinnacle level.
Derek Brunson didn't look happy after the fight. When they were waiting for the decision, I thought that because he didn't really seem to want to shake his hand, and Kevin Holland went to speak to him, and he kind of brushed it off. I just think he felt probably disrespectful is probably the right word. I just think it was a massive opportunity for Kevin Holland, and I think he's let himself down a little bit. Dana White said afterwards that he thinks he had some sort of mental breakdown, where I think actually that's probably unfortunate wording. I think what he means is the pressure of the occasion got to Kevin Holland, in that he just perhaps mentally wasn't, I don't want to say mentally wasn't strong enough, but mentally just kind of wasn't at his A game, and he wasn't concentrating, wasn't doing the things he should have done. He's been so impressive of late, so to be pretty much smothered by Derek Brunson, who's not young anymore, is a disappointing result.
He wobbled Brunson in round 2, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
He could have finished.
So you think he just thought he was going to get that chance to do that again at some point?
Perhaps, yeah.
It's a weird one, isn't it?
The striking advantage is with Holland, but he weren't keeping Brunson at range.
No.
Brunson just kept taking him down.
He was swinging at him. He was swinging.
It was entertaining, so. I guess it's no big deal, but I don't know. He's wasted an opportunity, hasn't he? You know, he could have done better by taking it more seriously.
Well, going back to the start of the show, when I was saying about Morgan Charrier, he was so frustrated because I believe he felt like he could have done more with his opportunity to defend his title. And I feel like Kevin Holland's in that same boat. He could have done more. And then when it's all over, you feel very frustrated because you're kind of looking back thinking, I should have done more with that. And you kind of didn't. And is what it is. Derek Brunson, who's ranked 7, will probably go up now and fight someone in the top 5. Rightly so. Thought it was a pretty good performance from him. Showed that he can still go. And I look forward to seeing where Max Griffin goes. So the earlier couple of fights on the main card, Richard, we had Adrian Yanez versus Gustavo Lopez.
Yes.
Danny, you didn't watch any of these, did you, mate?
No, I didn't, unfortunately. But yeah, I am going to chip off because I've got to be up in.
Yeah, that's all right, mate. I know you. I was going to say you got to go.
But yeah, I mean, I just thought, okay, look, I slept in a little bit. Obviously, I got back really early hours of last night. I got back about 4 or 5 o'clock. It was really early hours. But
I woke up this morning in my clothes, Danny. I was so knackered from the event.
Yeah.
I woke up this morning, I had my jeans on, everything. I still had my BS. Literally fell asleep in my corner gear. Wake up like that in the morning. I think it's that adrenaline dump from seeing Tom fight, seeing Jordan make history. It was a hell of a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
It was exhausting. I've got to say, when we got back, I went back with Jordan, but I parked my car at the gym. That's sort of a rendezvous point where we sort of like all met up. So I had to go back to Northampton, then drive from Northampton all the way back to Milton Keynes. So, that drive home was hard. I had to drive, pinning my eyes open. I was shattered, but it was all worth it. It was all worth it. Even for Tom's performance as well. I wasn't utterly disappointed with Tom's performance.
No, I thought he was very good.
It was a great weekend.
What Tom and Jordan have been doing in these trilogy events, and all the fighters, because it's such a significant part of British sports history. Do you mean the cage warriors are doing people in operation, and MMA is still such a young sport, and what they're doing is writing history. It's so significant, and I'm just so proud of Jordan and Tom. It was just amazing to be a part of each show. It's been amazing. It's just I will look back on these memories forever. It's been a joy.
History.
It's just been gutted seeing Tom lose, but nonetheless, there's nothing. It was just special. I wouldn't rather be doing anything else with my time.
Yeah.
But
okay, guys.
Right, Danny, it's been a pleasure, mate. You're not with us next week. You're not with us next week because you're in the States.
Yeah.
So Brad Wharton's joining me, and maybe Richard as well. We're not sure yet, but
most likely.
We'll see you in a couple of weeks, Dan.
Yes. Okay. Be safe, guys. Enjoy the rest of
your enjoy. Make sure you bring back some numbers of fighters for guests.
Yeah. By the way,
secret mission.
Ian Garry said he would come on the podcast. By the way,
did he? Excellent. I did message him yesterday.
Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah.
Top man.
Cheers,
well in. Right. See you soon, mate.
Bye.
Danny Batten, what a legend. So, and then there were the two hardcore. Right, so what we'll do, mate, was just round off these last two fights. Go to
Lopez, yeah?
Yeah, go on, you do that one then, and then we'll do the Tai Tuivasa one. So we had Adrian Yanez versus Gustavo Lopez. Yanez picked up the victory with a 3rd round KO. What did you make of this fight?
Yeah, it was brilliant. I'd never actually seen either of these two fight before, but what was interesting was Michael Bisping on the commentary booth was saying how in Yanez's last fight, so I think it was Lopez's UFC debut, and then Yanez's last fight, he picked up a 50k bonus, and it ties back to what we were saying at the start of the podcast. So on Yanez's first fight, he was still working full time. And he looked sensational in this fight, and he said that with that 50k bonus, it enabled him to train full time for the fight, and it reflected in his performance. He just poured on the pressure with the boxing, and then just drops him with that counter cross in the 3rd round. It was he just took him apart. It was just
It was
sensational.
it was a really sensational is the word. It was a really impressive performance all round, and
It was really
was very
patient
impressed
as well.
with him.
He didn't just sort of taking the center cage and just like not rushing anything. But when Lopez froze, he'd land like a few more back, and he was just so precise.
Yeah, and the finish came with that third round finish, and
Yeah,
it wasn't like super one-sided the fight. Like it was a good fight, but I thought Yanez did really well, and it shows what training.
With his hands,
yeah,
sort of
loads of
like
feints and stuff. But I just think
paralysis by analysis sort of technique.
And I think, like you said, shows that that 50 grand has made such a difference to him in that he was able to go and go to the gym 2-3 times a day, every day, 6 days a week, 7 days a week. When you're doing that, you're only going to get better, aren't you?
Yeah.
And then the fight which opened the main card was Tai Tuivasa versus Harry Hunsucker. This was I always enjoy watching Tai Tuivasa because it's going to be probably a short fight. Yeah. And it's probably going to be fireworks. And short fight.
It was, yeah.
Finished 49 seconds, TKO rather. It's not a great deal to analyse, but
the leg
enjoyable.
Kicks I do think were the key to Tuivasa's victory. He landed like 3 outside leg kicks and 1 inside leg kick, and with each one you could just see the grimace on
Hunsucker.
Harry Hunsucker. Yeah, you could just see his face. He was struggling to walk after one of them leg kicks. And he just landed that huge bomb. What was good about Harry, he had that one moment of shine, and he just closed the distance really quick, landed a few hands, but it's like this is proper heavyweight fighting. Do you know what I mean? You get excited. You get excited for heavyweights because of the power they're packing. You expect to see the finishes, and this fight just delivered.
Yeah, Tai Tuivasa is an animal,
were the key
mate.
to that stoppage. Like he knocked him out, but
set him up.
The leg kicks that set it up.
Really I agree with that. I just watching it back, like completely agree. The Tai Tuivasa is he's just an animal, just an absolute beast. There's so much power.
He was a hell of a lot bigger though. Like he was a much.
Yeah, he's lost a lot of weight, hasn't he?
Yeah, but he was taller, larger. But that's the thing when at heavyweight they just get bigger and bigger, don't they? It's like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big division.
I'm not too sure what division's easier because the light heavyweight division's often more stacked than the heavyweight division, but they just get freakishly big at the heavyweight division.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that light heavyweight division's ridiculous, though, isn't it? It's just like stacked from head to toe. Right, Richard. To finish off, I would like to get your predictions for Ngannou versus Stipe Miocic.
Oh, okay. So with Ngannou, you just can't get hit. So like, I feel like the game plan. So Stipe won the first one, and Ngannou has to work on his counter wrestling. And if you're Stipe, you just don't want to be standing with Ngannou at all. So I'm gonna say that Stipe wins on decision because I think if it goes like into the it's a 5-round fight, isn't it?
Yeah.
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 As Ngannou, did it go 5 rounds the first time?
No. I'm not sure. I check now.
It was for the title, wasn't it?
But yeah, it's I can't find bloody internet browser's being weird. Right, let's go to his Wikipedia page. So yeah, it's one of them, and like, these two, like Ngannou's got so much power that if he does catch anyone, it's over.
Yes.
It's just one of those. So he went 5 rounds. Yeah.
If anyone's getting knocked out, it's Stipe. And if this fight goes into the 3rd round, I just don't know if Ngannou. Because the thing is with these power punchers, the longer the fight goes on, the less power they're carrying towards the end of the fight. So
yeah, for sure.
The game plan for Stipe seems obvious: is you take him down to take away the kinetic energy, take him down, keep him down, exhaust them, and I'm 50-50. Like, either Ngannou's going to knock him out, or Stipe's going to win under decision. I'm going to say Stipe wins this on decision. That's what I'd put my money on. But that's not a safe bet, because with Ngannou, it's just like, if you get hit, it's done. So, but I just think Stipe's got the really high fight IQ. He's the champion for a reason, and I think he would successfully defend the belt.
Yeah, me too. I believe that it's like two ways, isn't it? Either Ngannou will knock him out in the first round, or Stipe will just beat him technically over 5 rounds.
Think Stipe has more tools in his arsenal.
Yeah, his all-round game is pretty well-rounded, isn't it? And like Stipe, Stipe's no mug, like with his striking. He's he's a very good MMA fighter.
I do love these what-if matchups. That's kind of like what gets you so excited. It's like,
yeah, of course.
I can't honestly call it like with full confidence, but I'm going to say Stipe.
So I will, as is tradition with Danny, I like to get the predictions for the main card fights. It's UFC 260, so there's some good fights. Doesn't have to be too in depth, just who you think. So we got Jamie Malaki versus Karma Worthy in the opener. Karma Worthy's been quite impressive last couple of fights, but any one of them sort of pushing you either way?
Karma Worthy knockout. Round 1.
Why not? And then why not? And then the bantamweight is next. We got Sean O'Malley, which is like
this is an interesting fight.
Really, really exciting fighter to watch versus Thomas Almeida. That is just that's just a good fight. O'Malley's got a bit of a height difference. He's got 3 inches in height, but Almeida's generally got a bit more weight, and O'Malley's got a reach advantage. So, like from a physical attributes point of view, they're pretty evenly matched. How do you see the technical side of it and the fight going?
I think O'Malley's going to win this, because they're both incredible. But I know O'Malley's coming off of a loss, but I think he's really with it, and I don't think a loss is going to hurt him that bad. I'm sure he's the type of guy that learns. He's like, you can just tell he's incredibly intelligent. And I think it's O'Malley's time, really. He's still, I know the hype train's been a little bit derailed, but the hype is still around O'Malley, and I think he's fully confident, and I think he's going to get the win. Knockout, I think so. Something about the way O'Malley, he's really tricky with his striking, and he just seems to stun these people.
Yeah, he creates these weird angles, and he creates like almost unorthodox positions and strikes, and I quite like it.
Fight, is it?
No, that's just the 3 rounds, that one.
O'Malley will knock him out in round 3. That's just my guess, but in this spot.
Of course, I believe that O'Malley's got that one. And then next up we've got Vincent Luque versus Tyrone Woodley. Tyrone Woodley making his return to the cage. It's going to be a fascinating watch. Tyrone Woodley takes a lot of criticism. Coming off the last time he fought was September 2020 against Colbert Covington, where he lost. It's a long time since his last fight, mate.
Who's his opponent again?
Vincent Luque.
Vincent Luque. And who did he fight last? No, I don't have Tapology in front of me.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I got the UFC card, so I can just click on him. So Vincent Luque fought.
Because everyone's familiar with Woodley, but I'm not familiar with his opponent.
I remember we talked about it. That's all. So he fought Brown August 2020. So he hasn't fought in 6 months or so, even more than that. He beat Brown via KO in the second round. Before that, he beat Price, and he lost to Stephen Thompson before that, back in 2019. So
I'm gonna say
he's on the back of a couple of wins.
I think he's going to edge it over Woodley. I just think maybe, who knows what Woodley's been doing with his time off. He is the former champion, but there's a lot of pressure if you've kind of been out the game for a while, and the game moves so fast. Timeout can do you good, and at the same time it can do you not so good. So it's hard to call, but I'm going to say Woodley loses this one. He just doesn't seem to have much support behind him, and maybe he's not got the mental game going on.
Yeah, my thing with Woodley is I just don't know whether he still wants to fight. That's whenever I hear him speak and his last couple of performances, it just looks like the motivation's not there. Now, I'm not saying whether it is or isn't. I'm just saying that from the outside. Yeah, it just seems from the outside.
He's been looking at other avenues, like getting a rap career going, and I don't know. Maybe, yeah. I don't see Woodley winning it, but no idea. Hopefully.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. I'm going to go with Vincent Luque for that. Why not?
Me
just
too.
for the fun of it. But that is a wrap, Richard. Thank you for joining me, mate, and stepping in for Danny as well as he swans off around the world. But are you joining me? Are you joining me next week?
Yeah,
or not?
Next Sunday,
I can't remember what we said. Yeah. Next Sunday, same time, 8:00. But we've got Brad Wharton, Cage Warriors commentator, joining us, which I'm very much looking forward to. That'll be a good little chat. I think we're just going to do it like a quick sort of hour. We'll just talk about the UFC.
Yeah, I'll be on. It'll be good. Some good fights on.
Yeah, indeed, UFC 260. So we'll just talk about that. We'll focus on that next week. But until then, guys, subscribe, youtube.com/A.C.E Podcast Nation. Spread the word about the Danny Batten Fight Show. We'll be having top guests as usual coming over the next month or so, including we've got UFC Scottish fighter Rhys McKee joining us. We've got Ian Garry joining us hopefully at some point, and many other fighters. So join us. Always an interesting conversation. We'll be back next week. Thank you. Good night.
Defending champion, welcome, Danny Batten.
You